WNBA players are threatening a lockout unless they get a huge increase in salary. Even though the league loses millions every single year, they are absolutely justified. I'll explain all that and much more straight ahead. I'm Doug Kezirian, and this is Hard Pass, also available in podcast. Pay us what you owe us. WNBA players made their message very clear at the All-Star game in a brilliant marketing ploy. The only reason we are all discussing this topic is because of those t-shirts in the layup line. Players want more money, and this was an extremely smart way to publicize their case and lean into their leverage. Yes, they have a ton of leverage in this negotiation as long as they stay unified. The collective bargaining agreement is set to expire after this season, and negotiations are underway between the WNBA and the Players Union. This united act by the All-Stars during warm-ups stirred the pot and, of course, generated a reaction across a wide range of people. The overarching question by many confused fans and by Neanderthals who love criticizing the W whenever they can: how does a league that's literally lost money every single year throughout its 28-year history think they are owed a pay raise? Time now for a heat check, and boy, was the peanut gallery alive and well. We'll start with Jason Howerton. Imagine being an employee at a company that has never turned a profit and showing up to work in these shirts. And then, of course, images of 4 All-Stars in warm-ups wearing those t-shirts. And wokeness. The WNBA loses $50 million every year and has never generated a profit. You deserve $0. Now, I understand what these tweets are suggesting, but it's not the entire story. In fact, the players are absolutely right, but the phrasing very wrong. The key word for me is "oh." I would have strongly implored the players to phrase their message differently, but nonetheless, they are justified. Not because of what's transpired until now, which is why I hated the word "oh." That word just implies a tab, a bill, back pay, something that's already been completed. Honestly, if you think about it, the players up until recently should be grateful for their salaries. This was a league that could have been dissolved several times throughout its history. But David Stern, who is the commissioner of the NBA, was very determined to make this league last. And whether he thought it was a social good that would have a trickle-down effect and grow the game of basketball amongst females, or maybe he even thought long-term it would be a cash cow like we're about to see now. But regardless, we don't have a placebo effect of no Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark does in fact exist, and business is booming. The reason the players do have a case, despite all the seasons in the red, is what's on the horizon: a $2.2 billion media rights deal. And that kicks in next season. That's an increase of $150 million each year that now can be applied to the salary cap, which means an increase in salaries across the board. Plus, the reason the media is writing such big checks: huge growth for women's sports. 3 ownership groups just paid $250 million each to become an expansion team in the WNBA, and that goes to the league. So that's what the players are saying. Worth, as in what's coming down the pipeline, not owed for back pay or past work. Let us know your thoughts in the comments section. Do the players, have they earned a raise in the W? Let us know your thoughts in the comments sections. Join the conversation, because this is how things work in the business world. Even if a company is not profitable, its employees still deserve a salary, which is why players have received pay every year, even though the league's not making money. The base rate is not great, but it's not minimum wage either. And the season only lasts 5 months. Some players supplement their pay by going and playing overseas the other months. In fact, some players actually skip the WA entirely and make more money overseas. It's a very simple transaction. We'll pay you this for this long, and you can agree to the terms. It's simple economics, but there's just so much more to the equation, and that's where we are as a league and where the league is right now, because things have now completely changed for the good, the very good. Business is absolutely booming, in many ways. And that's what the players are saying by, oh, again, I would have used a different word like pay us our worth or pay us our fair share, because that's what the players union is arguing for, the slice of the giant pie. That's what this comes down to. The media rights deal is about projections. Same for that expansion price tag of $250 million per team. That money is not based on whether teams are profitable right now. It's about projections and long-term worth. And the players, like it or not, are the main reason for that, not the actual basketball. Basketball is a sport with visible stars, no helmets. The fans are right near the court. Players are accessible. And the WNBA's star players are the reason for the W exploding. If you remove them from the equation, the stars, that is, including Caitlin Clark, none of these millions of dollars would be there. Social media has also helped, whether it's pregame outfits in the tunnel, profiled on social media, or even TV shows, businessmen realizing that the WNBA can tap into an entirely new demographic, females. This is good business. For example, in 2019, just 6 years ago, the New York Liberty were bought for $14 million. And now the lowest value of any WNBA team is $165 million. That's a profit of $150 million, again, in 6 years. That's why the owners were tolerating losing money on the day-to-day spreadsheet, because the long-term numbers made so much sense. This is not an isolated situation. We see this in other business examples, startups, other companies. They'll receive investment money all the time, even though their day-to-day is in the red. They're not profitable. Investors go through the books, assess the market. Right now, numerous companies are lining up to invest in women's sports because there's so much room for growth. And we are seeing it with that media deal, $2.2 billion. Money talks. So that's why the players feel it's their turn to get a bigger slice of the pie. And they absolutely will, when this is all said and done, get higher salaries. But the sticking point, and this is why the negotiations is going to get drawn out and we may have a lockout, will be by how much those salaries are going to increase. That's the main issue. The NBA has something called BRI, basketball-related income. The players basically split it with the league, 50-50. And that revenue comes from the TV deal, merchandise, tickets, etc. TV deal is the big one. The WNBA players don't get 50%. They only get 9.3%. And that's what will be discussed in negotiations. Since they've been operating for a deficit for so long, the ones that footed the bill do have some ownership. But ultimately, given the players are so valuable, I imagine the final deal will get worked out and the players' share will be about 35% neighborhood. Maybe as high as 40, maybe as low as 30, but it's still a huge increase from 9.3%. That's what those t-shirts are arguing for. And they have timed it perfectly. The collective bargaining agreement, the CBA, expiring right before the new media deal. That is huge. So they throw the first punch, wearing those t-shirts publicly, extremely strategic. It's the only reason so many of us are discussing this topic. Make no mistake, optics do matter in this. Make that league appear greedy and foolish. The players have all the leverage, and with expansion next season, media networks writing those big checks now, the players know the league must absolutely avoid a lockout, so they will cave in my eye. The league will. So it's all part of the process. Make it public. It's going to generate money the players are in fact worth, but not necessarily owed. Let us know your thoughts on this entire situation. Join the conversation, as we like to say. Love to hear your thoughts on the W, what they did during the warm-ups of the All-Star game, how the phrasing of it, and how it's all going to play out, and whether or not they do have a case. I, of course, think they do, but I would love to hear your thoughts as well. Of course, in true WNBA fashion, we get a dumb comment, perhaps showing their jealousy of Caitlin Clark, the league superstar. For the most part, I've abstained from the narrative of women can't support women and things along those lines, because I think it's tired and fundamentally untrue as well. But this next example is pretty clear. During a press conference after the All-Star game, Kelsey Plum was asked about the t-shirts, and she just had to get defensive and make sure everyone knew Caitlin Clark was not the reason for the united stance from the players.
The T-shirt, just united front, was determined this morning that we had a meeting for. And, not to tattletale, but 0 members of Team Clark were very present for that. But no, we were just... We had a very...
that really needed to be mentioned.
I'm trying to make a situation light, okay?
You could feel Sabrina Ionescu cringing. She knew the stupidity right away. Let us know in the comments section why you think Kelsey Plum said those remarks. Who knows? But I'm curious to get your thoughts on that. Let's do another heat check. As you can imagine, that induced some reaction on social media. Barstool's Dave Portnoy. Yes, players can be morons like Kelsey Plum and still deserve more money. Brick Center, WNBA players hate Caitlin Clark. Kelsey Plum dissed her for no reason. Hater Report digging deep into last year's All-Star game when Plum picked Caitlin Clark up 94 feet, playing defense the entire way. Personally, I think Kelsey Plum is just lost in her own echo chamber. Sometimes people, like Plum, just have to take a good look in the mirror at themselves and realize they're not that important or special. Yes, she's been in commercials and she's well known in her own echo chamber, but ultimately they'll easily be forgotten in due time. So why bite the hand that feeds them? Caitlin Clark is the reason for this media rights deal and huge shift in popularity. Others, like Plum, have played an in positive role, right? But the shift would be the same with or without people like Plum. They just would. That's the hard part to accept. I imagine there's frustration for Kelsey Plum. She had the NCAA scoring record before Clark broke it and became this huge ratings bonanza. Maybe Clark was just the right person at the right time. That's not her fault either. Regardless, why say something so stupid and unnecessary? It makes no sense. Fans in the Stands is when we engage our audience, or our fans in the stands. It's a time for you to let us know what you think of the show. Good, bad, what you want to see more of, less of. Join the conversation, as we like to say. Get involved. Let us know in the comments section your thoughts on any segments. We'll highlight a few as well. And let's talk about last episode, highlighting a few comments. Justin for she. Unless I'm remembering it wrong, Caitlin Clark was the first to do the John Cena "you can't see me" taunt, and Angel Reese returned the favor in the championship game. Okay, so I dug a little deeper in this. The John Cena gesture is waving your hand in front. And yes, it all came to the spotlight as when Angel Reese did it at the final minutes as LSU was icing a championship game victory over Caitlin Clark and the Iowa Hawkeyes. And it was seen as taunting, classless, and I agree with it. Just the gesture. I mean, she was 20 years old. I didn't really care. I still don't. But it's worth mentioning that, yes, the actual move was taunting and classless. But that's also part of the game of talking trash. But Angel Reese, when the game was already decided, was in her face. So be it. Now, some of the motivation for that was how Caitlin Clark had done it prior to a former teammate of Angel Reese, which is Haley Van Lith when she was with LSU. And Caitlin Clark did it to her going into a timeout, things like that. But I understand the pushback. A lot of people said it was a racial thing. When Caitlin Clark does it, it's fine. When Angel Reese does it, oh, it's taunting, it's classless. I get it. I think it was a slight hand gesture on the way after a timeout, walking to the bench. Haley Van Lith, even talking to Taylor Rooks of Fox Sports in an interview, said she didn't really do it to me. We laughed about it later. So it wasn't like in her face when the game was decided. Look, we're splitting hairs, but even Haley Van Lith said it wasn't directed at her. So just worth mentioning. But again, I did have my wires crossed a little bit. The gesture towards Raven of South Carolina was something different, but it's worth clearing the air. And that's what the comment section is for. So we appreciate Justin weighing in on that one. Next comment, Angel Reese applauded a non-basketball play. Do you remember when Caitlin Clark got bodied? Reese clapped for the violence. Mrs. Reese is an adult who can handle her own business too. Shaq will never stop talking about Kobe either, and Shaq should just shut up. There is a very poor culture in American hoops when practicing fundamentals makes people scratch their heads looking at Shaq and AI. A couple things there. This was in response to Shaq coming to the defense of Angel Reese, who he has a relationship with, a mentorship with. And yes, Angel was a member of the Chicago Sky as a rookie. She was on the bench when Caitlin Clark got pushed to the ground with a flagrant foul. She applauded it. I think that was just the spirit of competitive play. I don't think she was hoping that Caitlin Clark would get hurt or anything like that. But nonetheless, Reese did celebrate it. It was in the same camera shot, to be honest. As for Shaq, look, I think fundamentally he was fine. He's a multiple-time champ, one of the best centers of all time. I always loved Shaq. But it's good that he's serving as a mentor to Angel Reese, in my opinion. That's what last episode was about. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. We appreciate everyone's weighing in who has, again, joined the conversation. We want to hear your input and your thoughts, your feedback for as our fans in the stands.